you see here, and thank you again, I mean, we're in a group here, it's more effective when you're alone, because there are no witnesses, right? It's just the two of you. But you can see a lot there. So in terms of help right now, if you do 2 steps, one is addressing the feeling right now, which is a physical suffering, or frustration, angry. If I could help you feel a little bit better, that would be nice. There are 2 kinds of better, right? One is better from what you're suffering, and the other is better about how you suffer your suffering. Because like you said, it's like there's a reaction to the experience, and her reaction is the gateway. Your reaction, the angry, frustrated, but you went into it, but then you went out of it again. Hopelessness. To me, that's a really big and important one, but I wouldn't go that deep for help right now. I wouldn't go. Because oftentimes you'll find people that, I mean, look at you, she's dynamic, she's professional, she's beautiful, she's articulate, all these things. I think, this is very positive. Yet, we all have a kind of a shadow self. We all have areas where, we don't want to project that as our persona. But in the long term, working with that, because what I call it Jungian, right? The shadow self, that part of our experience that we don't want to accept. The persona, again using Jungian, the persona is the parts of our experience that we like, that we identify with, and that we want to present. And the shadow self is the experience we have that we don't like, that is hard to integrate, that we'd rather not project. Even looking in the mirror at ourselves, let alone having other people. But the fact is, it's all us. And again, following Jung, which I believe a lot, that the individual, the ego, but that's not the Freudian ego, the me wants to integrate, wants to be whole. It doesn't want to spend a lot of energy suppressing the shadow self. So what will happen, especially as life progresses, or in challenging times like yours, weeks of this, the shadow self, the unintegrated aspects will kind of come through the cracks. And there you are with things about yourself that you really don't want, and you've been able to put aside. But integration, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. We as beings, we want to integrate. And sometimes integration can happen with just forgiveness. It doesn't have to be like a massive psychological thing. Sometimes whole things can disappear in a second with just one act. And for a lot of us, it can be forgiveness, or we'll call it acceptance, or call it letting go. Usually it opens up a door of compassion, where you're compassionate to yourself. As my wife oftentimes says, nobody's perfect. That doing this kind of thing sets up a potential benefit from the Neuralight that's so much greater than just doing the Neuralight. Because the sessions are great probability states. You're working with a process. I say that what a person brings into the session is almost as important as the session itself. And there are times, we do this interview thing, where the person will actually say to me, okay, finished, we did it. We didn't even do the Neuralight session yet. That it happened. The thing that they wanted to have happened. They got help right now. And they feel relief, they feel different. They get a state change, a mood change. It's like, wow. I say, okay, now that it's happened, you want some more of it with light and sound? Sure. I mean, that's not every person, but you can see, like right now, we didn't do the session, but you're going to be a curious observer of when you're not expressing clearly and directly. Is it possible, you claim a little bit of a memory thing, that a side effect of this habit could be difficult recall? That's the thing, like the person that couldn't remember because they were getting frustrated, and the frustration was inhibiting the memory. By not seeing and voicing clearly decisions and taking care of yourself, in the Jungian terms, things are getting pushed into the shadow self more and more. And the more that you push things away, it's harder to recall. Memory, it's called selective memory, where you're only allowing yourself to remember the things that fit the persona, and you don't remember the things that are with the shadow self. That's why I say first things first. Instead of going for the action that is the goal, meet people where they are, which they can generally identify in a feeling state better than a storytelling. But usually, if it's hard to be in the feeling state, they will tell you a story. And sometimes an idealized story, or a very rationalized, or some kind of like spiritual philosophy story, or all these kinds of things. And I usually say, okay, that's interesting. And I go like that, aside. And try to bring them back to the moment. I said, here, right now. You have no past. It's finished. Future is imagined. What about right now? Completely right now. You know, I'm not but I'm saying that this kind of interview style makes the Neurolight work better. A lot better. Because the person is already mobilized. Remember, what is the key trigger to neuroplastic change? Attention. Attention. You having momentary opportunity to be attentive to the fear factor, to the hopelessness factor. This is mobilizing problem solving for you. For you to know about this frustration, car better than me, you know, not being clear or direct, whatever the words were, just being aware of that. That's what suffering is supposed to do. It's supposed to let you know that something is significant. Pay attention. Not that you're supposed to be so wise to be able to construct all the solutions, but that it begins with attention and seeing it, looking in the mirror at it. There are many of us that don't like to look in the mirror at ourselves. I mean, if you want to do a provocative exercise, you know, light up the room, nobody's there, take off your clothes, stand in front of the mirror and just look into your own eyes. Just look into your own eyes and keep on just seeing who's there, seeing who's there, seeing who's there. That attention, you know, all of this stuff that's been held underwater that is actually buoyant starts to come up. And for neuroplastic change, seeing it is the beginning of change. Suffering kind of is like forcing change. And pleasure is directing you towards change. But we have to be very, you know, sensitive to that. The reward is, or the punishment is not in the pleasure or the pain. The reward is in the attention. So, I don't want to get too far. What I'm going to do right now is ask you to put this on pause. I'm going to go to the restroom. I'm going to rest in the restroom for a moment.